Do humans really come from evolution? I have recently seen a movie on the internet, telling that because of pollution and environmental destruction, humans went extinct in a great disaster. But some artificial robots which had gone through the test of nature survived and then gradually developed their own feelings and consciousness. They could also correct themselves, tens of thousands of years later. They relied on the developed brain to rule the earth, creating advanced science and technology, beginning to learn knowledge about the universe and themselves. Where am I from? This was a question in the mind of many robots. Legends came from ancient times about the people who created robots. However, now many robots thought that, how can we trust ancient legends without scientific evidence? That was because the robots' knowledge of the ancient was insufficient, leading to the original cult. Later, a number of robots wanted to find out their origins. Beginning to research, some archaeologists had unearthed some fossil steel and iron underground. After undergoing analysis, these iron and steel were discovered to have some similarities with the robots' elements, hence they guessed robots had evolved from the original iron and steel. Several years later, the archaeologists unearthed a fossil machine from underground. Then they carefully analyzed this machine, discovering it was extremely old, as more and more fossil iron, steel and machine were unearthed. There was also more new knowledge about the origin of robots. Experts analyzed and discovered that from low-level robots evolving to high-level, but the further the era, the simpler the structure. An even more important discovery was that some machines evolved into artificial machines. According to the evidence in ancient legends, these artificial machines were called computers. In the course of history, these artificial machines, through ceaseless labor and thinking, eventually evolved into today's intellectual robots. Therefore, it could be concluded that robots were not made by humans, but the result of the Earth's matter constantly evolving from low level to high level. This theory was named theory of evolution because it was mostly based on scientific evidence and researched. It was very quickly accepted by many robots. The theory of evolution had revealed the origins of robots, becoming an important milestone in the history of science. Since then the robots believed themselves to be an evolutionary form, the highest form in the universe, the greatest beings, and would become the ruler of the universe. This somewhat absurd story while maintaining its reality as in a movie. A comment from Planet of the Apes. Human status was exchanged for that of the apes. Apes ruled the world and their world was quite developed. Humans were wild animals that apes hunted and killed, and they couldn't even talk. So, ape scientists had come to a conclusion. Ape evolved from humans. The movie released in 1968 became a movie extremely important in the history of science fiction film, having an extremely meaningful ending. The movie begins on a spaceship. The male protagonist is Taylor, we call him Taylor. Taylor was the captain of the spacecraft, a group of 4 people sent for space exploration. To them, 6 months of flying in the space at the speed of light. It had passed 700 years on the Earth. After Taylor set automatic driving status, he went to the room to rest together with other members. If they knew by the time they woke up, it would be 2,000 years later. In a strange planet, the Earth they were once familiar with, and the Earth of the 20th century where they lived could never be returned. Taylor now did not have too much attachment. Because he had understood human nature, he looked forward to seeing a whole new world. After 18 months in the space, the crew finally landed in 3978 AD in a strange planet. The only female member in the team, because of equipment problems, became a dry body before the landing time. So, Taylor brought 2 other people, Dodge and Landon, beginning to explore this unknown planet. They found though this place was extremely desolate, without life. But fortunately air still existed, other things were similar to the Earth. Their belongings were only enough for 3 days. So if life was not found within 3 days, they could only die here. Taylor chose a direction randomly to go. After walking for a long time, they finally found life. It turned out that there were humans on this planet too. But they seemed to be in the primitive state. They could not even talk. Seeing this scene, Taylor could not help but say, if the planet was just like this, half a year was enough for us to rule this planet. We may even become the god they worship. But as soon as he finished speaking, a group of apes came from afar. They even held guns. Thus, not only the dream of becoming a god was destroyed, but Taylor and his member were also chased by apes. They seemed to be hunting and killing humans. Unfortunately Dodge was shot and died. Landon was lost and Taylor was caught after his neck was nearly hit by a bullet. These apes consider humans they caught as dried fish to hang up. They even considered human as a trophy, putting humans under their feet to celebrate. Taylor awoke in a laboratory and he was locked in a cage. The ape used a high-pressure water gun on them. Is this scene familiar? These apes were also able to talk. They assigned clearly tasks to the hunters, looking very orderly. There was also a race. Black apes, a race that was discriminated against. A scientist studying humans, extremely looked down on them. He felt that humans having no thoughts were dirty beasts. His voice was filled with a feeling of superiority. The more frightening fact was, they also carried out dangerous studies on the human body. Are these very familiar? Yes. These are the judgments that people often talk about animals. Even for what we used to do with animals, we have never felt a problem. Because we think that human beings are superior to all animals, even different from all other species. But we forget that humans are also animals. It's just that we win the competition with other animals. The dignified ape professor called human a poisonous insect, because humans used up forest resources and ate off crops. After humans lost the competition, losing the right to eat too. Now we realize that the logic that people judge harmful insects is nonsense. The Earth's resources do not belong to humans alone. It belongs to humans and other species. Every species has a right to the Earth's resources, even if they lost in the natural competitive war, falling to a lower status. Because animals harm the interests of humans. They are considered harmful insects, while expanded human civilization leads to many animals losing their habitat. Who will judge human beings? That human civilization is unique is suspected again. There were good people and bad people, so were apes. Although Taylor's throat was injured and he was temporarily unable to speak. But a female ape researcher discovered that Taylor was not like other humans. So she gave Taylor a special gift. That's the native human who could talk, Nova. Perhaps she felt Taylor's brain was more developed than other humans. So she wanted him to breed the next generation so they could go into further research. But in the cage, how could Taylor do this in front of them? So he tried to rob paper and pen from the hand of ape researcher, writing his name and give it to her. Seeing this human still able to write, she was amazed. So she thought of an excuse to bring Taylor home, together with her husband, an archaeological researcher, using paper to talk with Taylor. Taylor told them he was from the distant Earth. His crew landed in a lake, and they passed through the desert, and climbing over a high mountain to get here. But the ape researcher doubted what Taylor said. The land he went through was forbidden land. Creatures could not live there. But the ape researcher expressed that no matter what, Taylor's existence also proved a theory that the ape archaeologist once said. The ape archaeologist once speculated that apes evolved from humans. She felt that Taylor was a creature in evolution transition. At this time, Zaius brought soldiers coming in. He wanted to forcefully bring Taylor to undergo brain surgery. Because in their culture, the god had created the apes. The logic of the archaeological ape was inconsistent with their beliefs, judged as a lie enchanting others. So Zaius couldn't let such unknown species as Taylor exist. The ape researcher couple could not prevent Zaius as he had powers. Taylor was locked in a cage in the laboratory. He knew there's only death in here. So he took the chance to knock out the guard, and ran outside. On the way, Dodge had turned into a sample. But he didn't know the way in the ape city. He also did not know where he should go, so soon after, he was arrested again. By that time, Taylor's throat was almost recovered. He angrily said the first words of human on this planet.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
From the faces of these apes, it could be seen that they were scared. This feeling was probably the same as in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Caesar said.
No!
After that, this seemed to have incited the entire ape city. They took Taylor to a meeting to take his testimony. But the ones being judged were the ape researcher couple. Zaius still thought that the research couple had transformed Taylor into a talking monster. But Taylor insisted that he was a human from another planet. Along with him, his teammate Landon was also arrested. Just finding him and asking, then it could prove that Taylor did not lie. So they found the arrested human, Taylor's team member. Taylor just looked and recognized Landon among them. But when he looked closer, he saw Landon's eyes having no feelings. It turned out that he had undergone brain surgery by Zaius. Just like humans on this planet, he couldn't talk. A man having no mentality. Taylor's words were not proven. So the ape researcher couple were told to lie and enchanting citizens, and was locked in prison. After the trial ended, Zaius met Taylor alone. He asked if Taylor came from the tribe in the forbidden area, asking Taylor to tell the position of the tribe. Otherwise, his fate would be the same as Landon. So Zaius seemed to know some secret. He had an unnamed fear of humans. Zaius let Taylor think within 6 hours. That evening, the ape researcher couple told their nephew to save Taylor and Nova. Because they did not want to go to jail. They wanted to go to the cave near the forbidden area. Perhaps there was evidence to support the husband's theory of evolution. Then they passed through the desolate forbidden land to that cave. At this time, Zaius brought soldiers and chased after. They did not expect Taylor also had a gun. Besides, his shooting skill was not bad. Taylor held Zaius as the hostage. They all entered the cave, finding out traces of human civilization. And the level of civilization was even higher than the current one of the apes. The ape researcher couple were amazed. But Zaius was so calm, he seemed to have known this already. Zaius finally acknowledged the glorious past of human civilization, but still did not show weakness and blamed the superficial civilization of mankind. Taylor seemed to have been stabbed in his pain, humans killing each other, destroying peace, excessive consumption causing exhaustion of natural resources and polluted environment, leading to the desertification of territory. This was the harm of human civilization. Taylor understood clearly, he could not help but admit it. Because he hated all of this, he became an astronaut, running away from the Earth. Although Taylor was ashamed by words of the ape professor, but he still believed though superficial, human civilization still moved forward, towering in the distant Earth. But the truth ultimately caused him to collapse. Taylor left the apes. Going further into the forbidden land, he discovered the goddess of liberty statue standing here. It turned out that this place was the Earth, always the Earth. After 2,000 years, human civilization was really weak. That it went to the end, humans destroyed all that they had built, offering the throne to the apes. We, humans, are not a race of particular concern. We are only part of the animals, permanently in natural competition. If we can't quickly start to urge, judge and improve our civilization, then we would lose our status as the competition winner at any moment. Back to the starting point of the animals. The film was released in 1968. In terms of costume visuals, it looks outdated, but it's extremely brave. Extraordinary imagination with profound meaning are enough to make up for other shortcomings for this movie to become a masterpiece of all time. Until today, it still reminds everyone